Hello there, everybody. Thank you for coming to my channel. This channel is called Coffee Time with Grandpa. And guess what? I'm Grandpa. I have a channel that has been an inspiration to many, many people since I started 5 months ago. My channel has been going steadily. It's been growing steadily, and I am so happy that you have found my channel. Now, don't forget while you're here, because it's important that you like my channel, share it with others, and put a comment down in the comment section. Or you can just put a little heart emoji down if you don't want to say anything. And subscribe to the channel. And this will help this old man out a lot. I am coming to you from Nebraska, so I will speak a lot about, Nebraska and the Nebraska weather that we're having. I'm also a pagan, and I do live a pagan lifestyle, a very spiritual lifestyle. I am improving on a lot of different subject matters. I am bringing subject matters to you as I learn them, because I try things out first before I bring it to my audience. That's so important to me. And lately, I've been wondering what to bring up during these November and December sessions that I'm having with the public. I am wondering if everybody is interested on the topic of preserving your foods that you have harvested by either going out and hunting for your deer or rabbit or wild turkey or whatever it is, or what you have come in through harvesting your vegetable gardens and your root crops. If you do not preserve them, they will not last the whole winter, because they spoil very easily in the raw state, even if you put them in the cellar and bury them into the ground so they won't freeze during the winter months. There are just several different ways of going about it. One of my top favorite ways of preserving my foods that I collect from my garden is the water bath method. Now, that is just your typical canning method, where you have a container filled with boiling water, and your jars, your quart jars or your half-gallon jars are put in, and you basically let it boil for 15 minutes, and voila, they're preserved. You take them out, and you can preserve them that way. There's different recipes that some you put in sugar, some you put in salt to pickle them in the jars to make your pickles with, and your seasoning and your spices. Another canning method that people seem to like, but not so much as the water bath method, but it's preserving your foods with a pressure cooker. Now, I never did like the pressure cookers that much, because I've heard horror stories about them blowing up all the time. So I stayed away from that method. I don't want nothing to do with that method. Now, a lot of people like it and they know what they're doing, but it's not for me. And then another one is to go on Amazon and buy you a cheap dehydrator. That where you have several layers of different things. You can have a bunch of fruit that you want to dry and put in jars and store it over the winter. This is a perfect time to do it, especially if you're into preserving deer meat and making deer meat into a great item for a meat. Cut up your deer meat, the good slices, real super thin. Marinate them in your sauce overnight, whatever particular sauce you might want it a little sweet, or you might want it a little hot with a little jalapeno in it. It just depends on what your flavor is. And marinate that for 24 hours, and then put it in your deep fat fryer. And you will have the most delicious meat to eat. That is one of my favorite things to do, by the way, and I do it with other cuts of meat too. I do it with beef, you know, and turn it into jerky. You can when beef is on right now. Beef is very expensive, but when beef is readily available at a cheap price, cut up some thin slices of whatever favorite beef that you like, and put it in your sauce. Marinate it always for 24 hours in the refrigerator, and then go ahead and put it in your deep fat fryer. And it has the correct settings. Usually it's a low setting of maybe 110, 120, and you leave it in there for several hours until it's dehydrated, and there you have your beef jerky. It's so inexpensive to do it that way because if you notice in the grocery store how much beef jerky costs, they have doubled and tripled their price on beef jerky, and I refuse to pay those kind of prices when I can make my own at home. Another way people do preserve their foods, mainly their meats, and that's usually beef or a hog or chicken or fish, and that is smoke their meats. They have what they call on their farms a smokehouse, and it's basically a lot of times it's above your root cellar where you store your root crops, and they build a smokehouse right on top of it, and they use certain kind of hickory flavored woods to get the smoke going in the smokehouse, and then it's a slow drying out process. They treat their meats with salt, and then they smoke it, and it just a beautiful flavor you get. And the longer you smoke it, the better tasting it gets. It's a great way to preserve your meats. Another way is now your vegetables now come to mind. I got a little lazy in my old age, so I basically just clean up my vegetables, cut them up in edible slices, whatever I'm going to be using them for, and then I put them in freezer bags and put them in the freezer and store them. But this method is just a short-term preservation because you don't want to leave frozen vegetables in the freezer forever and ever because they develop that freezer taste, and it's something I don't like. So to avoid that, put a date on your bag when you put it in there, and try to use up the ones that are older first, and the newer ones will last longer. It's just common sense. Pickling is another way. Now, when I was growing up in a boy, they had these big pickling jars where they would put 50, 60 pickles in at a time, and put salt in and it turns it in with the water. It turns into a salt brine, and your pickles are in there, and they will stay preserved in that state uh, as a pickled. You don't put any vinegar in; it's just salt. And then what you do is you keep the pickles submerged, yeah, by either getting a wooden container on top and laying a rock on it, and then make sure the lid stays down so all the pickles are always in the pickle brine, and you will have picker the whole entire winter. Usually by spring, you're getting down to your last pickle to eat, which is just in time for your new garden to kick in. You can do that with sauerkraut too, with your cabbage. Growing up on a farm, we raised a lot of cabbage, so we would clean it and slice it and into strips of cabbage, real thin strips of cabbage, and we would fill the pickle, that container that we have. It's a stone jar, uh, and you would put your sauerkraut in there, and then you would pack it down really tight. But keep on packing it down, putting a layer of salt on, packing it down and packing it down, putting more layer of salt until you start getting a salt brine of cabbage juice that will start marinating. And then once you fill up your container, you go ahead and get that wooden container that's on top that's shaped. The circumference of it is the same circumference where you can place a rock on top of it and lower it down so everything stays submerged in that brine. So it can turn into, within 60 days, you'll have sauerkraut. It turns into the most delicious tasting sauerkraut. And there's different recipes out there. If you want to add a little um, caraway seeds in as each layer that you put down on the sauerkraut, put a layer of caraway seeds, and that will give it additional flavor. It's one of those things that my great grandmother recipe was handed down to my grandmother, and she showed us how to do that when we were a child. You can do the same thing, by the way, with corn, pickled corn, corn on the cob. Put a layer of corn down, fill it up with water, salt it down really, really good, then put another layer of corn and do that, repeat that 3 or 4 times until your jar is filled up, and go through the routine. Put your top on, put your rock down, and then cover it with some kind of blanket on top, to where it can be any kind of rag blanket or anything on top, just to, so no light will get in there. You want to keep the light away from anything, and store it in your root cellar. That's where it'll do the most good. Put your pickled corn, pickled sauerkraut, pickled pickles in the root cellar, because the temperature stays usually between 60 and 70 degrees, and that's the temperature it really needs to be on to marinate really good and to preserve your crop of vegetables. Another way to do is, like your potatoes or any of your root crops, you can dig a hole in the ground below the frost line, put all your stuff in there, and then layer it with some kind of thermal uh, uh, blanket of some kind on top of it to keep it cool, and then cover it up with dirt. And then just make sure you remember where you buried it. Okay, or if you forget where you buried it, you'll in the springtime you'll have a bunch of sprouted potatoes. Potatoes coming up. Uh, that's a good way to put, by burying things into the ground. A lot of people in Europe do that. We don't do that so much here, but we need to learn how to do it. In case this is all in case the electric goes out and you no longer have electricity. You can survive very good by all these different techniques that we have, and you can also, a lot of times you can preserve your whole wheat that comes in from the fields, regular wheat, hybrid wheat. You can go ahead and have a little machine that will mill your grain for you and put it in bags to where you'll have a ready supply of flour so you can bake your bread. There's just a million ways of living a very simple life. And isn't that what it's all about? Having time in your life to do all these things, and to be self-sufficient, so you don't have to always be reminded that rent is due, you have to pay your electric bill and all that, living in the modern world. I was born out of my century. I am not supposed to be in the 21st century. I would have been so happy just living back in the 1800s before electricity was a thing. That would have been my perfect haven that I would love to live in. And I hope you have learned some things. If you want to ask me any questions, please feel free to ask questions in the comment section. If I hit on something that you're interested in, I can send you more detail by replying to your comments. So it's a great way to communicate with Grandpa. Go ahead and leave some questions in the comment section, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. Now, this month I recommend another book. I always like to recommend different books because it always has piqued my curiosity on some of these books. And this month's selection that I came up with is called Wisdom of the Elders this is what it looks like. And this book is by David Suzuki and Peter Nunston. I can hardly pronounce his last name. But this is the book, and it's a sacred native storytelling book of Native Americans and how they dealt with nature and how they lived a very simple life. Get this book and put it in your library. You will be glad you did. It's a great storytelling book, and I just love about hearing about the past and reading about the past, how people lived in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, especially in Native America, because they had a really beautiful life and a very blessed life until the white man came, and then it was all destroyed. A great book to have. I hope you get it. Uh, Now I want to close here by saying, blessed be to everyone. I'm sending love and blessings to your household, that you have a great week. I hope and pray that everybody is having a good week, because it's just no way to live if you're not having a smile on your face. And I hope I can put a smile on everybody's face. Blessed be, and guess what? See you next time. Bye bye.